back. It is Hot Leads Cold Cases with your host, Nancy Tertre, here at the Sky and the Para-X Network. Very happy to be joined tonight by the host of the Vinny Eastwood show, none other than Vinny Eastwood, who does hail from New Zealand. So that's kind of what we spent a lot of our first segment talking about, culture, government. I'm sure we'll get into many more things. Do want you to reach out to us tonight if you had a question or a comment at 248-545-7685. I'll repeat, that is 248-545-SOUL. Online, well, you've got the instant feedback. That's at newskyradio.com. And everyone over at Para-X, you can also send a question or comment via the chat room. So you get a hold of us, and we'll send it back over to Nancy and Vinny.
All right, thanks, Brandon. Well, I got to say, over in the chat room at Para-X, they are deeply concerned about those possums.
Yep, they're very dangerous. Apparently, they all carry tuberculosis, but no test in the 20 years that they've been doing this has ever yielded results that are positive that a possum carries TB in New Zealand.
Ay. Well, okay. So, I mean, listen, on the break, you happened to mention to me just as we were coming back on, you said, oh, by the way, did you happen to know that today is Hitler's birthday? Which, of course, no, I did not know. And it might be appropriate since you call your show The Lighter Side of Genocide. And we do seem to be talking about the mass killing off of certain animals. And a lot of people, particularly people who get involved in different types of conspiracy theories, have talked about, the so-called theory of, or the conspiracy of, who knows, the New World Order, let's put it that way, to get rid of, what is it, more than 90%? Is it 90%?
Yeah,
of the world?
Between 80, 90, 95. Some people I think there was a Texan university or something. This great scholar said we need to kill 100% of humanity, and he got a standing ovation.
Oh, Jesus.
He's gonna kill us! Yay!
Yeah. Well, I got to say, there is something deeply alarming to me, and about the fact that the entire world's population has more than doubled since when I was born, and I can feel it. It feels to me much, much more crowded. And to me, something has to be done, whether killing off everybody is the right solution here, and whether we should be poisoning everything in our environment, earth, water, and air. To me, that just doesn't feel too logical. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, fertility rates in the West are dropping sharply. It's kind of like, in order to stop a society from imploding in on itself and its people going extinct, you need a birth rate of 2.4 per couple, so that you've got enough to replace, plus a little more, so that you've got a little bit of growth there. The old classic adage of 2.4 children. And at the moment, the birth rates are around about between 1.1 and 1.6, depending on which Western nation you go to. So if people are worried about overpopulation, congratulations. You're all going to go extinct anyway.
Okay.
So there's the overpopulation thing resolved itself. Nice.
Do you think the human race is going to be around for much longer? Seriously?
Oh yeah, I don't know. It depends. There's who did I interview the other day? Dane Wigington. Nancy, if you ever want to wig out, get Wigington. All right, seriously.
All right.
Dude talking about the permafrost coming undone and all these massive methane bubbles coming through the ocean, acidifying it, and then relaying it back to these climatic changes that happened once upon a time that killed like 90% of land animals, 90% of sea animals, and like 70 to 80% of land animals the last time these type of methane releases were happening. And he's stating that those methane releases are now happening both in the southern and northern poles of the Earth. So he thinks that basically unless we stop chemtrail geoengineering, that we're dead. And the process has already started. But then again, I don't know about you, but I get told every single day on my radio show about a new way that I'm being killed or is going to exterminate me or something. The only commonality that all of those stories about how I'm going to get exterminated have is that I'm still alive when I hear them.
which is always a good thing. I do seem to find that so far so good with me, because I do seem to be rather resilient, that I've gotten here for this long so far. But I do know things are getting a little bit tougher. I have been speaking with a number of people recently about the nuclear meltdown event at Fukushima, and the fact that it's ongoing, and the fact that everybody seems to be blissfully unaware of the fact that we are undergoing continuous radiation. And I've now seen really disturbing YouTube videos of people have gone to the market, they pick up in this is in the United States, where supposedly there's no real problem, and I'm talking about the middle of the United States, not the West Coast. They pick up tomatoes and strawberries and cheese and bread and lettuce, and they run Geiger counters over them, and they're showing radioactivity, which I find very alarming. And I haven't heard a peep from anybody about that. Have you?
Oh yeah, this magazine that I got in my hand here, the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine, done by a friend of mine, Jonathan Eisen, and his wife Catherine, who wrote the Cancer Prevention Handbook. And what they did just after the Fukushima nuclear accident is they published an extensive article not only on the dangers of the Fukushima radiation, but also the general herbs, plants, and things of that nature that you can take in order to prevent and even excrete excess radiation from your body. So anybody who's fond of a nice curry, there's a great spice called turmeric that's constantly used in there. That's good for it. Garlic, ginger, and what was the other one? Ginkgo, the ginkgo tree. That is the only tree that grows near Chernobyl, apparently. Very, very good at getting radiation out of itself. You get some ginkgo leaf extract and things like that from all over the place. And these are simple things. Rosemary as well. Everybody can grow rosemary in their backyard. So look at it this way. Despite the fact that you have a look at this massive radiation plume that came out, and we've seen the satellite thermography images or whatever of all the radiation, hundreds of millions of tons of radioactive water being dumped into the ocean and swirling round everything, and massive radiation plumes of airborne plutonium. The reason why it's called plutonium is after Pluto, the Greek god of the underworld, by the way, because it's that nasty. And you know what the United States does? As soon as all that radiation hits the West Coast and sends all their Geiger counters over the measures and way beyond safe levels, EPA comes out and says, hey, the safe levels that we previously specified are not actual safe levels, and we have to raise them like 10,000 times higher, and that's the safe level now. You can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't. And it's astonishing to me that people don't get more mobilized or disturbed about it. But I think that with sort of we live in a kind of a cyber television internet type of a mind frame, and that's really become our reality. And with like advertisements, you could, if you turn the sound off, it's completely, for most of the advertisements you see on TV, they're completely disconnected from the reality of what's being said. And I sort of feel like humanity is kind of living that mind experience and just ignoring very real things.
Yeah, that's part of the society that we've allowed to be built around us, as an immense distraction on every single level. What was I having? I was having a conversation, I think yesterday, with Suzanne Posel about how to stay sane when you realize everything's a lie. And that's actually quite humbling. You just think to yourself, oh my God, everything that I'm being told is a lie. They say that the radiation's safe when it's not. They say that the vaccines are good for you when they're not. They say that the food is safe when it's not. So on and so forth. How you can't end the list. Everything's wrong. Everything's a lie. Everything's killing you. Everything's dangerous. It's really quite a horrific reality. And many people get depressed learning these type of things. And so they should. If you didn't have some kind of horrific emotional reaction, I think you were quite strange, frankly. The difficulty is you have to continue living It's only usually people think, oh, once I die, I'll know the truth or whatever. But unfortunately, now we're learning the truth when we're alive, and it's a terrible thing, so scary that we wish we were dead.
Let me ask you this: you obviously, through your radio work and your broadcasting, you're trying to achieve something in a world where you're kind of swimming upstream. What do you want to be your legacy?
That's a good one.
Oh, I stumped you. The man who talks for how many hours a week? That's good.
Well, when I think about my legacy, I already have one. I'm the first New Zealander to have an American-based talk radio show in history. I've put more New Zealand activists on air and on YouTube than any other entity in history. I am New Zealand's most subscribed YouTube channel for news, including beating out all the mainstream media here hand over fist. In fact, if you combine most of the mainstream media outlets and the amount of subscribers they have on the YouTube channels, I'd basically be bigger than all of them combined, roundabouts. I have done so much for so many people that I already have a legacy and I'm only 28. To think about what my legacy is going to be after I'm gone, let's say it's 40 years down the track, let's say I die at the age of 68 or so. What I would hope is that, because I never mention what date or time and things of that nature that my radio shows are broadcast at, specifically because one of my affiliates in Hamilton here in New Zealand tells me, don't mention them, because he plays rebroadcasts. And when you play in a rebroadcast and you mention the name and the date and the title and all of that kind of stuff, people become very conscious that they're listening to a rebroadcast.
Yeah, sure.
So my shows, essentially, as I make them, are timeless. The information doesn't change, and it's current. Now, you've seen films before that, even if they've been made decades and decades ago, they still have a really great core to them that is timeless. Or songs can do this as well. And what I wanted to create essentially is the world's largest archive of interviews with more people than any other radio show host has interviewed in the world's history, in a context where it doesn't matter if it's 100 years later or 200 years later. You can sit down and listen to these broadcasts and learn something about how the world is or was in that matter. In a way, I just want to help the people who go out there with their activism on their mind, exposing people who are, I don't know, horrific pedophiles or lying, cheating bankster scum or corrupt cops, military dictatorships and things of that nature, who put their lives on the line, have their houses and children and all of their comforts of life stripped from them because they refuse to sit back and allow tyranny to take root wherever they live. And I think that maybe that would be my legacy, of helping to gain some coverage for more people, covering more topics than anybody else through history. I'm already well on my way, because I'm doing between 5 and 10 interviews a week plus.
That's fantastic, Vinny. We got to take a quick break. Everybody stay with us. You're listening to Hot Leads, Cold Cases. My guest tonight is Vinny Eastwood.
Comment via the chat room. So you get a hold of us, and we'll send it back over to Nancy and Vinny.
All right. Thanks, Brandon. Well, I got to say, over in the chat room at ParaX, they are deeply concerned about those possums.
Yep, they're very dangerous. Apparently, they all carry tuberculosis, but no test in the 20 years that they've been doing this has...
Talking about culture, government, I'm sure we'll get into many more things. We want you to reach out to us tonight if you had a question or a comment at 248-545-7685. I'll repeat, that is 248-545-SOUL. Online, well, you've got the instant feedback. That's at newskyradio.com. And everyone over at ParaX, you can also send a question or comment.
Lighter side of genocide, and we do seem to be talking about the mass killing off of certain animals. And a lot of people, particularly people who get involved in different types of conspiracy theories, have talked about, the so-called theory of, or the conspiracy.
We're back. It is Hot Leads Cold Cases with your host, Nancy Tertre, here at the Sky and the Para X Network. Very happy to be joined tonight by the host of the Vinny Eastwood show, none other than Vinny Eastwood, who does hail from New Zealand, so that's kind of what we spent a lot of our first segment.
Ever yielded results that are positive that a possum carries TB in New Zealand?
Ay. Well, okay. So, I mean, listen, on the break, you happened to mention to me just as we were coming back, and I said, oh, by the way, did you happen to know that today is Hitler's birthday? Which, of course, no, I did not know. And it might be appropriate since you call your show the